Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to those of you just joining for the first time as always. For those of you that have been watching and been following for a while now, just thank you for coming back, and thank you for my new subscribers and new viewers as well. And this is going to be like a usual vlog. I've ventured away from my testimony for a while, so this one is going to be a testimony continuation, so please stay tuned. So if you guys can put your minds all the way back, those of you that have watched this vlog that I'm going to be talking about, if you guys can set your minds back, like it's been a couple of months now, but kind of the making of Painful Purpose, because that was part of a testimony that I shared with you guys. Yeah, so it's going to be continuing from that. Don't worry though, I've linked that video in this vlog right now. That must have been, that was April 2022. Sorry, 2020. I'm getting confused now, guys. But that was in April 2020 when I started doing Painful Purpose, and I thank God for it now. But then kind of the rest of 2020 was kind of how it was, I guess, for everyone else. Like the pandemic really like messed with all my plans that I had for 2020. So I didn't really do much. I was in the house a lot of the time, and there was kind of like a period where we kept going in and out of lockdowns, but not fully going out of lockdown, if that makes sense. Well, in England we had like a really nice summer and everything. It was really warm, which is really annoying because we couldn't really go out and do much, but it was a really nice summer, so it just always happens. But it was nice, and I think for a lot of people, like it was for me, it was nice to have a break and just be able to be at home and not feeling like you have to be out, like for instance at work or at school if you're studying. But after a while it became too much. And myself being an extrovert, it was hard because I couldn't be around other people, as I said about in my COVID-19 experience vlog. So it was kind of like this, but it wasn't too bad, I would say. 2020, once I kind of got over the kind of like being scared because something new and the whole pandemic and lockdown, it actually wasn't too bad. But there were things that was postponed, and one of those was my older sister's wedding, which was supposed to be in July that year. But obviously because of the pandemic, she couldn't have a big wedding. And if I'm not wrong, I think you could have a wedding at that time. I can't remember, this is 2 years ago, guys, now. But I think it was with a lot less people. So it was kind of like, oh, we want people. She really wanted people to be able to be around and everything. But then in the same breath, she really wanted to be married. Like she wanted to marry her now husband. They love each other. They wanted to be able to spend time together, and when we're in lockdown they could hardly see each other, so they wanted to get married, and they had put it off for so long as well that in August of 2020 they actually had, so it was like a sign-in service, so where you are legally married but not the whole like ceremony, because I think for if I'm not wrong, for each like side of the family, I think you were only allowed 15 people. So my family is, those of you that know me personally, my family is very big, so getting it down to 15 people, yeah, I did not envy my sister, because a lot of people are upset and stuff, and people are like, well, why didn't I get invited and all of this stuff. But you know what, you couldn't help it. It was the pandemic, it was the rules that you had to follow at that time. But yes, so that was a nice thing to be able to experience, like the whole signing and stuff. As I said, it was a bit weird, but it was nice at the same time, because my sister actually got to get married legally, so that was really nice. And then she eventually moved in with her husband, and then we were helping her with moving and stuff, because funny enough, you were allowed to move houses and have people help you move houses as long as they were kind of in your bubble. So we helped her move into her first house, so that was all exciting, and we really enjoyed it. And we made all these big plans, because like fast forwarding a bit later in 2020, they were saying about how we're going to be able to have that 5-day well, basically 5-day freedom days, and I'll explain more what that meant. Well, this was for England. Basically it meant that in a kind of sense, all of kind of the lockdown rules and not being able to see people, only being able to see people in your bubble would have basically been non-existent in a way. So we could have gone and seen family and stuff around the Christmas period. So we were all looking forward to that because we hadn't seen our family for almost a year, and it was just crazy, and I was just all excited. We were all excited for the Christmas period. But lo and behold, yeah, that didn't end up happening, because at the last minute, I think, so in December time, I think it was, or maybe November, they actually said, yeah, they're scrapping that because the cases were going up, and the more deaths were happening because of COVID and the spread of COVID. So they basically scrapped that for London. But for the rest of England, I don't know about all parts of England, but for a lot of England, they still were allowed to do it. But I think they were only allowed to do that kind of like Freedom Day for one day. So a lot of people did it for Christmas. They were able to be with family, but unfortunately my family weren't. And then Keisha, my older sister, yeah, she was supposed to come round because she was still in our bubble. So she was meant to just stay around and then be able to spend Christmas with us and her husband as well. But unfortunately, Keisha and her husband Kirk ended up getting COVID. So we weren't allowed to see them. I remember we had presents and stuff for them, so we ended up just driving to their house on, I think it was Christmas Eve, and we just gave them Christmas presents. And I can honestly tell you guys, that was one of the hardest Christmases, because now we're told that we can't see anyone. Now Keisha and Kirk are both sick, so we didn't see them. So it was just my mum, my dad, Rianne and Lauren, and myself, obviously. So it was a really, really weird Christmas. And then Christmas was also on a Friday. So Sabbath came in very early. So Christmas, I feel like if all of my family were Adventists, it wouldn't be so bad. But it was kind of a difficult one because my mum and dad are used to doing certain things on Christmas, and because we weren't born Adventists, we would kind of do those stuff and entertain those things. But because we are Adventists now and they're not, they're kind of expecting us to do what we did before, but we're not. And all of this, and it was just a very stressful experience. I didn't even enjoy that Christmas at all. And as I said, not being able to see Keisha and Kirk was hard as well, because we've never spent a Christmas without Keisha. So that was, yeah, it wasn't nice at all. And then, yeah, it just, I guess that to the ending of 2020, it was ups and downs. Like, there were some positive moments, there were some good times, and yeah, just a lot of confusing things. But then as we got into like the beginning of 2021, I was like, oh, things are starting to look up. Keisha and Kirk recovered from COVID. None of us, fortunately, contracted it, and things started to ease up a little bit in London with the whole like lockdown and restrictions and stuff. So that was a blessing in disguise. But as you guys that have been watching and you have been following for so long, you will know that that is never the end of the story when it comes to the life of Chelsea. Because once everyone started to like calm down and everything, and everyone was better, we were being able to see each other a bit more. Not so much being in each other's houses, but just being able to just stand outside people's houses and just say hi and stuff, which we did do on that Christmas of 2020, that was nice. But yes, I think it must have been about, yes, it was in January of 2021. And I started to feel like really unwell, and I was like, oh gosh, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Like, my chest was really tight, I felt really breathless, I couldn't breathe and everything properly, and I was just like, oh, what is happening? And I remember I just wanted to lay down, I wanted to sleep all the time. And then I think it got really bad. Like, I've had chest pains like a long time ago in the past, but it felt different, it felt weird. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna call so what we have in England, for those of you that are watching that are not from England, is something called NHS 111, and it's basically, so they kind of point you to where you need to be going, whether it's a GP kind of medical problem, an emergency, so for you to go to hospital and stuff like that, and it can just give you general medical advice. So I think I called them, or the doctors, I can't remember at this time, but I called one of them and I just described the symptoms I was having, but I never thought to think or go to COVID because I wasn't coughing or anything like that. So I was like, it's probably not COVID. well, I was coughing, but I didn't count it as continuous because it would be like a cough here, a cough there, but it wasn't like like continuously. So I didn't think that it was COVID or anything. So when I spoke to them, they told me that even though, like, when I described that I was coughing, she said it's really confusing how they've said about continuous cough, because as long as you've been coughing like consecutively for days or whatever, even if it's like one cough one day and then one cough the next day, but you've been continuously coughing in that sense, if that makes sense to you guys, and it's counted as continuous. And I was like, okay. So she said to get a COVID test, so you can get a PCR test that is delivered to your home, and I'd never done one of these before because I've never had to. So I took that. That was horrible. Those of you that have taken COVID tests, they're absolutely horrible, like sticking out at the back of your throat, they're making you want to feel like you gag and then up your nose. It's not nice. As much of you could like probably know this. So that experience was nasty anyway. Then my mum had to go and post it at one of the special post boxes now that they have for these test kits, so that I feel like it's just to keep stuff like separate. So that happened. And then the doctor basically said to me, if you don't have COVID, then it sounds like you have a chest infection. I was like, okay. So at the time I was really praying that I didn't have COVID, but I did start to think that I might have it because I'd been with Keisha and Kirk before we knew that they tested positive for COVID. So now I was like, maybe I do have COVID, I don't want to spread it to anyone else. And then lo and behold, when the result came back, I actually tested negative, which I was very thankful for, but it didn't stop the chest infection, and the chest infection just felt like it was just hammering down on me, to the point that I was probably in bed for a good week. I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to eat, I just wanted to be by myself. And then I got loads of advice from other people saying just keep drinking water, it kind of flushes stuff out. But I never actually, like, even after they had told me that it's a chest infection, the doctors actually never got in contact with me. And then I remember even after a month, and I kind of explained this a little bit in one of my other vlogs, even after a month I was still having the chest pains, some breathlessness, and I'm like, clearly something's not right. So I called my doctors, and they actually never got back to me about it. So I kind of just like, you know what, I'll just ride it out. And and it was just a crazy thing, and it just made me start thinking that, and feeling really discouraged and thinking, well, God, you say that you don't leave me, you say that you won't forsake me, but I feel like things just keep crashing one after another. And I've said this for a lot of my like health issues, because it felt like 2020, okay, we had the pandemic, but it felt like things were starting to get better in like the summery months. And things were starting to open up a bit more. Like, we still had restrictions, we still had to wear masks and everything, but it felt like things were opening up. Then for the whole Christmas plans to be cancelled, and then Keisha and Kurt to get COVID, I was like, okay, that's one thing. Then stuff started to get better. Then I got knocked down again because I had a chest infection. And in those times, and maybe you're going through that right now, in those times you can feel really discouraged and say, but God, you have told me all these things, and you're telling me all these things, but I don't see all these things. But I want to encourage you with this verse, and it's taken from Isaiah 55 verse 11, and it says, so shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. And the thing that I kind of want to encourage you with this verse is that when God has said something, one thing that we can trust is that it's never going to return void. It's never going to be an empty promise that is just something God says and then he never comes through with it. But God is a promise keeper. And when God says something to you, it means that he will be there. It means that he will keep his word. And everything that God says in his word always and will forever remain true. When God says he will never leave you nor forsake you, he won't. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you, because he has said so. And sometimes that can be so hard to hear, especially when you're going through difficulty, because you're like, well, God, you're saying this, but I don't feel it. God, you're saying that I'm not alone. You're saying that you're here, but why can't I hear you? Why can't I feel you? Why do I feel this way? And you can feel really discouraged by that. But I want to give you some encouragement, even from my own life now, like not even talking about from 2020 or 2021, but from now, because I've had my shares of struggles, even now at this point. But one thing I can definitely say is that when we keep our eyes fixed on God and we remember the promises and we claim those promises, we go to God and say, God, you have told us this, so why does it not feel like it is true? God answers. And sometimes he doesn't answer audibly, so you can't directly hear him, but he will answer in ways that you will understand, ways that he knows that he can reach you. For me, sometimes that is making me start to look at things differently. It could be as simple as I could hear birds, and there was and then it always makes me think of where it's written about how God takes care of the sparrows, and how we don't need to worry. If he takes care of them, how much more will he take care of us? And it's just the simplest things, and God makes it so applicable to me, and I know likewise he will do the same for you guys. So I just want to encourage you guys that if God has said something in his word, it's not going to be returned void. If God has said something, he is going to keep that promise. And God promises us that better is to come. Even if we don't feel it now, even if we don't see it now, better is to come, because God has said it. So never forget that no matter what you're going through now, no matter whether you are at your highest point and you feel like everything is amazing, which I am very happy for you if it does, or you're at the point where you feel like everything is crashing and burning, just keep holding on to God. As hard as it is, just keep holding on to God, because it's the best place to be. As I've said in so many vlogs before, when you feel like you don't want to be close to God, when you feel like you don't want to pray, that is exactly the moment when you need to be praying, because the enemy loves when we don't pray, because he knows how powerful prayer is. And if he knows how powerful prayer is, why don't we? So again, I just want to encourage you that whatever you're going through, to give it to God, to speak to God, because the promises that he has made, promises like he will never leave you nor forsake you, will not return void. If God has said it, he will do, because he is the promise keeper. So I hope you guys were blessed and encouraged by this vlog, and this message was something that you needed to hear, because I know it was something that I needed to hear. And I just pray that you guys have an amazing week, no matter what you're doing, and just know that you're in my prayers, in my heart, and even if I do not know you by name, take solace, I think it is, in the fact that God does know you, and God cares for you a lot, more than anyone on this earth could ever care about you. So hopefully I will see you guys in 2 weeks' time by the grace of God, and please don't forget to keep checking and looking out for my shorts that come out every other Tuesday, so the Tuesdays when I don't have a vlog. But I pray again that you were blessed and encouraged by what I shared with you today. Bye guys.